quick tutorial on animating in Maya. So I've created a couple objects here, a little sphere and a block. We're gonna work on animations. Let's say we take a 30-second animation, a 10-second animation. We want 30 frames a second. That's 10 times 30 is 3,000. Wait, no. 10 times 30 is 300. So 300 frames that we're going to do. And then I'm going to drag this so I can see 3,000 frames on my screen. And I'm going to start setting some keyframes. So I'm going to click on Object and then Set Keyframe. So I can just use this. So I can go up, I'm under the animate menus up here, and I can set animate, set keyframe, and it sets the little red line here for the object I've clicked. Let's say I want that to go up. I can then move that up and over somewhat. Oops, I want to jump to a new keyframe. Let's say I want to go over to frame 80 or so and then move it. And I can, S also sets keyframes, so I can just hit S to set. I should have set a keyframe. Why didn't I? I want to grab my one object here. Set the keyframe. Okay, and then jump out ahead. I always forget to jump ahead and then do my animation. So yeah, S should hit that keyframe. Now if I play this, it should go through that animation. Now I may want to also set some animation for this other object in time. Maybe I just want the box to slide along, and so I'll jump to a location. And I'll set a keyframe, and then I'll jump ahead. And it'll show me where this other ball has been going, and I'll set another keyframe. And maybe I want to just slide back and forward like this. Oops, jump ahead, and then slide back and over, and set another keyframe. So here are the three keyframes in red for the box. Now if I select this thing, I'll see the keyframes for that are set to there, there, and there. Now if I run this, both animations will run together. It should run for about 10 seconds. Now I'm going to switch to the animation, the rendering view here, and actually I'm going to jump up here and bring up the render window. Jumping on my other screen. Make sure I go to render options, render settings, under options. Jumping to my other screen. Okay, file output. We want to switch this to something that will save as an image or a sequence of frames. Right now I can't click there because it's in a individual frame. I'm going to switch it to AIF, and I'm going to render from scene frame 1 to frame 300. Compression, I'm going to switch it to Microsoft Video or some other, like QuickTime compression or something like that, so it doesn't take up as much space. The extension, I'm just going to say the name here, and then I'm going to, so I set the format, I set the compression, I set this to just name an extension for multi-frame, set the length 1 frame at a time. Eventually we might change the camera, and this is the size, and we might want to switch this eventually, but we'll leave that at 640 by 480, which is a relatively small image to start. Now I want to render, do batch rendering, so I'm going to go under rendering. Well, let's just render a single frame to see how this looks. Render current frame, and we can see how it looks. Now I might want to add some light to the scene. I might want to go in here and add a directional light, and maybe rotate that directional light around. It doesn't matter where the directional light sits. I might even just want to add some ambient light here also. Now if I re-render this current frame, the lighting will be different. I've got lighting now coming down from here. Just lights it a little bit different. Okay, so I get my lighting set. I want to render, batch render, and it should then go through and render a whole bunch of these things. Now where it renders is kind of weird. If I go back to the render view, options, render settings, it should tell me up here where it's rendering and the file name by default. Somewhere in here I can set the file name, and I don't see where that was. But that's where it's going to render it, so I can just go grab that file. And I can see down here it should be rendering, and finally now rendering is complete after I pause it. Okay, so out here where it says it's saving it, here's untitled.avi. I haven't saved my project. My project is called Untitled, so that's what it is. I can actually go and render and change the name here of the prefix, and it'll add the AVI automatically to it. And this is the renderer that's created. And we can look at some cleanups to make this a little cleaner, but that's general rendering. If we wanted to add a camera and render from a camera quickly, I'm going to hit space so I can get multiple views here. I'm going to drop a camera in under rendering. There's a camera here. I can just drag that camera in here. I can then rotate that. Now I can switch to one of these views and just switch it to look through the selected camera. So now this will view that camera. And I can control where that camera is and kind of what it sees. I'm not pointing it down very well here. There. And then I can actually move this camera view as I'm doing my animation. I can switch where the camera is. I have the camera set so I can go to a certain keyframe, set it, and I can dolly the camera in, for example. To zoom into something. Oops, jump to my keyframe. Zoom in on something. Set that keyframe. Jump to another location. Zoom out. And set another keyframe. So now when I animate, it should animate all those things. And then when I render, I should be rendering from that. If I go back into render settings, I can select what camera to use and render from that camera. So I'm going to do batch rendering again and let it render there. So it's busy. I can see in the status bar it's rendering things. I can see the file. It's working on these temp files here. Takes a while. So now the rendering is complete. We can go grab our file out here, Untitled. And if I play that, it'll not only move the objects around, but it'll zoom in on the objects with the camera and zoom out. So both the camera and the objects are all moving. That's it for the quick rendering demo.